La Vita è bella. In English, Life is Beautiful. A 1997 Italian comedy drama film where the story took place year 1939. The story first focused on the love story of Guido, which is the main character, and Dora. Guido stole Dora from her fiancé on their wedding day. Eventually, they got married and their love bore a child named Josue. Then the war started. Guido and Josue were deported in a Nazi concentration camp for being a Jew. On the other hand, Guido wants to hide the reality from his son, so he hid the real happenings in the camp, which are forced labor, lack of food, and soldiers' brutality. And he fabricated a story where all the happenings are all just part of a game. Guido maintains this story until the end, when, in the chaos of shutting down the camp as the Allied forces approach, he tells his son to stay in a box until everybody has left. Guido goes to find Dora, but he is caught by a German soldier. The officer decided to execute Guido to death. Then, he passes by his son one last time before his execution and winked to him. His son winked back, thinking that was also part of the game. Then Guido was executed. Josue soon spots Dora in the procession leaving the camp and reunited with her. Later, as the story goes by, as a man, Josue realizes his father's story of sacrifice for his family. In the film, many themes are displayed, but one that stood the most is the warfare theme. The story happened in the start of World War II, where Jews were exterminated by German soldiers. This is a movie about war, but it chooses to focus on war from a different perspective, or, more to the point, in the victim's perspective. In the story, it is shown that the civilians were treated as slaves and prisoners. Some of them were executed to death by the orders of the officers. The victims experienced many struggles as the war continues, and some lost hope, but in the end, the war ended, and they started a new chapter in their lives. In the story, it is shown that the civilians deported to the concentration camps experienced forced labor, starvation, and soldiers' brutality, which is well known as Holocaust. In this period, the soldiers were also allowed to kill Jewish children in accordance with their ideological views, either as a part of the racial struggle or as a measure of preventive security. The victims were also forced to work for the German regime, which is also a vital part of the German economic exploitation of conquered territories. It also contributed to the mass extermination of population in German-occupied Europe. Many victims ended up dying in the process, which increased the number of casualties in the Holocaust period.
My opinion in La Vita è Bella, I must say that I think Roberto Benigni, the writer, the director, and actor, created a masterpiece that touches our heart. Not only do your cheeks hurt from smiling or laughing, but your eyes burn from the tears.
For me, the story was extremely touching. It pulled my heart when the father was struggling to carry pounds and pounds of lead, but he blurred his teeth and ignored it, just so his son would think he was having fun. I believe the father made the ultimate sacrifice by ignoring all his pains and heartache so his son wouldn't have to feel it as well.
Vita e Bella connects us to the time where life is full of sufferings. But characters in the movie makes us believe to always look on the brighter side and think in a positive way. Because for them, a gift of life is really beautiful. The only difference is the way we want to live with it. Just like what the father did to prevent the ugliness of the world to his son.
For me, in my own opinion, the movie of Life is Beautiful. I saw different types of drama, human, fantasy, and tragedy. And of course, the film is clearly comedy. And after watching it, I found that it has less to do with the Holocaust and more to do with the human feelings and beautiful relationship and of father and his son.
For me, this movie is an inspiration for all those who watches this. This movie shows that the father maintains his composure despite the fact that this is in the time of Holocaust. All of his doing was for the sake of his son's freedom. Thus, this movie shows how one perspective can make life beautiful.
In the story, bravery is completely shown by the father, Guido. Guido managed to play out their miserable situation into a game to his son. Guido struggled, starved, and forced to work, but still made his child believe it is all part of the game. Even on his way to death, Guido was still composed to make sure that his son was still not aware of the real happenings. During the Holocaust period, it is very hard to maintain this kind of traits and to have faith that hope still exists in the time of hopelessness.
One of the best aspects of this movie was how the story sends out a message saying that even in the most hopeless and desperate times, there is always a way to get through and keep your hopes high. The story is an inspirational to everyone, telling people to never give up. Even though the father died in the end, he accomplished his goals by keeping the most important things in his life. People should remember this movie as a lesson, saying that no matter what, you should never give up.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Als Doug XP. Kalimutan mo na yan, sige maglibang. Huwag kang magpakaibang, dapat ay itawa lang. Ang problema sa babae, dapat tininda. Hayaan mo silang mag-apol sa'yo, diba? Sabi ko naman sa'yo, lahat ka nagloloko. Pagkatapos ka pakinabangan, bigla lalayo. Kaya wag nang uulit pa. Kaya wag nang uulit pa.
Tayo, kailan ba matututo?
Alam mo nung una pa lang kita nakita, wala eh. Yung mga
Pero ano pangalan niya ba?
dito lang ako magkakaroon ng lakas ng loob talaga.
Ano ba pangalan niya, pre?
Pangalawang row sa harap. Wala eh.
Pangalawa yata, pre.
Ikaw talaga.